Okay, I'm unsure if we've had a draft from the 109 yet, and I will say it's an awkward spot to draft from. Now, I've done about 300 to 400 of these drafts so far this offseason, so I think we'll be able to navigate it. I think we'll be fine, and I want to get y'all my draft strategy for this upcoming season at the 109. Let's wait. I think team one's about to be on the clock in about 10 seconds. But before we get into it, please go down there, drop that like, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And if you're wondering where we are drafting, get with the times. You are legitimately probably the only person left on planet Earth that is not drafting on Underdog Fantasy. There's nothing more fun than drafting on Underdog Fantasy. And when you sign up and use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with literally a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. You'll get our rankings. Most importantly, you'll be able to have some fun with us, draft with us in the live stream, go draft in the public lobby. Ton of fun. But here we have Jonathan Taylor, CMC, going off the board in the first two picks. So what you come to expect. There's nothing different, really. The draft doesn't start till 6. We should get Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and Jamar Chase as the next three guys off in any particular order. Now, of course, I would love to see some people go crazy. I would love to see someone reach on, say, a Derrick Henry here, but it's probably not going to happen. But what does happen is someone reaches on Stephon Diggs. Now, this is good news and bad news. It is bad news because Stephon Diggs was our target at pick 9, so that kind of sucks. But it's good news in that it looks like we may have a crazy drafter here who skews this board a little bit and allows us to have some value falling to us a little bit later and potentially have a very fun start to this draft. So it is a little bit scary to see Diggs go, but now we get Austin Eckler at 5. Jefferson falls to 6. Chase falls to 7. Like I said, we are not getting any values falling to us, so that's not necessarily good. But here it is good to see that a couple of these drafters may be a little bit crazy. And if they're going to be crazy, we can pick up some value. So Derrick Henry's off the board. I think this is a draft where maybe it's going to be easier to find wide receiver value in the middle rounds compared to a draft full of a bunch of sharks. So let's just go ahead. Let's grab Dalvin Cook here. I don't even have Dalvin Cook ranked ahead of Najee Harris, but if you're looking at my exposures right now on Underdog Fantasy, like I said, I've already done over 300 of these drafts, and I have about 3% Dalvin Cook, and I have about, I want to say 6-7% Najee Harris. I don't have a lot of either player, but I definitely have more Najee than Dalvin. And also, Najee Harris is falling a little bit. I posted this in our Discord chat this morning. But I had a draft on Underdog Fantasy this morning where it was just in the public lobby, real money draft. Every draft in Underdog's a real money draft. I started Derrick Henry at pick 10 and had Najee Harris making it back to us at pick 15. So I think there's a 0% chance that Dalvin Cook makes it back. But I even had someone reply to my post over there in Discord showing us that they started with Stephon Diggs and made Najee Harris fall to them at pick 17. So I think there's a small chance you have Harris falling into the second round. So let's go ahead. Let's take Dalvin. Let's try to get both players be a little bit greedy. Obviously, it does not work in our favor here, but DeAndre Swift off the board at pick 12. Interesting to see Swift off before some of these other wide receivers. So I think maybe we made the right call here in deciding to go Dalvin Cook and assuming that this room is going to be a little bit more running back heavy than what you'd find in an average draft on Underdog, and that can push some wide receiver value down to us. But let's see what Spence does. He took Travis Kelce round 1. My old draft strategy from the 109, the 110 used to involve taking round 1 Travis Kelce. The reason I've stopped taking Kelce as often in round 1 is nothing against Kelce. I love me some Travis Kelce, but I've seen Kyle Pitts falling down consistently to the end of the third, and I love drafting some Kyle Pitts. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Joe Mixon. If I pull up my 2022 fantasy football draft guide, I will let you know that I have Joe Mixon ranked well ahead of here, taking him at pick 16. If I pull up this draft guide, and this is not a draft guide for Underdog Fantasy, this is just a regular draft guide for your personal fantasy football league. I currently have Joe Mixon ranked as a top 5 running back. Yes, that is true. And in our overall rankings as well, I'm a little bit more aggressive on Joe Mixon than this. I have Joe Mixon ranked at pick 8. Getting him here at pick 16, in my opinion, is going to be a massive value. Like I said, I'm more comfortable assuming that we are going to get some wide receiver value falling to us in this draft once we see CeeDee Lamb and Davante Adams fall outside round 1. We get someone taking Austin Eckler over Justin Jefferson. So let's go ahead. Let's start with 2 running backs from that 2017 draft class with Mixon and Dalvin. If we're going to be going through and looking at their draft profiles in our draft guide, you're going to see that Dalvin Cook over the past 3 years has, on average, finishes the running back 4 on a points per game basis. I was thrown off there because we had someone taking Justin Herbert at pick 21. Looks like this team's going crazy. That's what I said. Good news once you see Stephon Diggs going at pick 4. Even if I would have rather had Stephon Diggs over Dalvin Cook, it's still great news for us just because this team's gonna go wild. Taking Herbert at 21. No idea what they plan on doing at 28. Javonte here seems a little aggressive. I'm taking Mark Andrews over Javonte Williams every chance that I get. Every chance that I get. I'm not even thinking about that either. But that Herbert selection makes it more likely that we are going to get Kyle Pitts falling to us at pick 33. You have Tyreek Hill making it all the way to pick 24. He goes Tyreek and A.J. Brown. Leonard Fournette, ADP of 21, sitting here available at 26. Yes, with Lenny. He didn't show up to camp the exact shape that you want. Now he's falling even further here. Let's see if the crazy team at pick 28 has a shot to take Leonard Fournette and what they would do if they do get that opportunity. Kyle Pitts goes, so that sucks. Maybe that's why they decided to pass on Mark Andrews instead for Javonte Williams, just because they wanted Kyle Pitts. Clyde Edwards-Helaire off the board. I got to look something up. Did something happen with Leonard Fournette that I do not know of? Was there breaking news with Leonard Fournette today? Nick Chubb off the board. Let me run over to Twitter real quick to try to figure out if something happened with Leonard Fournette, and we may need to panic. But if we get Leonard Fournette falling to us with a Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon team, this is going to be the best draft we've ever had on the stream. If we get Leonard Fournette falling to pick 33, there's no way. Michael Pittman goes 30. We are 2 picks away from it happening. We are 2 picks away from it happening. Give us Leonard Fournette. Make it happen. Make it happen. Leonard Fournette goes pick 31. Oh, that would have been so crazy if we had Fournette. This team gets to start with Chase, Deebo Samuel, and Leonard Fournette. Oh, that is beautiful. I am very jealous of this build. They go Keenan Allen. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take DJ Moore here. I really like DJ Moore. We liked him before and after the Baker Mayfield trade. I do want to stand by the fact that I think while Baker Mayfield's not a good NFL quarterback, trust me, I've never been a Baker fan. I've always been a Baker hater. Literally look at the wall next to us filled with University of Texas albums. You know I'm not a big Baker Mayfield guy. If you look at the adjusted yards per pass attempt for DJ Moore through his NFL career, playing with guys like Heineke, Sam Darnold, Kyle Allen, like here with DJ Moore, this is the best quarterback play he's ever going to have with Baker Mayfield. Not even close. But Josh Allen goes pick 35. I think Allen is a fine value. I mean, usually you have the Stephon Diggs team who takes Allen in the middle round 3. But of course, we had that crazy team at pick 4 deciding to go Stephon Diggs here. Travis Etienne off the board at pick 36. Good for us. We're kind of wanting to have wide receiver value make it back to us. Like we said, we took Dalvin with Mixon, assuming that we could get wide receiver value here. But we may just end up, we may end up going Kamara and just going swinging for the fences in a best ball tournament like this. Sutton goes pick 37. Anybody who watches this channel knows I am ecstatic every time Courtland Sutton's off the board. You take Sutton, hell, just thank you. Thank you. Now, Hollywood Brown off. Let's see what happens. These are the 2 guys we're going to be choosing between. Y'all know I love me some Jalen Waddle. I don't even need to go through my love for Waddle, the player, even though I will admit it's a gross situation. Breece Hall off the board. So now that Breece Hall's gone and we have that rogue drafter where I do believe we're going to be able to scoop up some wide receiver value. I mean, if we look at what they've done so far, they've taken Diggs, Herbert, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, pick 28. I think we should get some wide receiver value making it back to us a little bit later. We will go ahead. We will take Alvin Kamara here. Of course, with Kamara, there's suspension concerns. And I am recording this before anything official has been announced. There are rumors that Alvin Kamara will miss 6 games. If you're playing in a regular 12-team format, maybe you don't draft Alvin Kamara here. 100% maybe you don't draft Alvin Kamara here. However, this is Underdog Fantasy. We are in a best ball tournament, $5 buy-in, $75,000 for first. First place in your 12-team league gets paid. Second place in your 12-team league gets paid. A small percentage of every league pot is set aside for the massive tournament at the very end of the season. And because of that, we need to look for players that can really be league winners. Alvin Kamara won someone like $100,000, $1 million the first year they did Best Ball Mania. I think Alvin Kamara can win it again. Obviously, he's going to have the elite level ceiling in weeks 15, 16, and 17. And it looks like we are just drafting the all 2017 running back team. All our running backs from that 2017 draft class, all of them are going into year 3 of their second deals, which historically speaking, that's about when we need to be worried about a fall off for these players. But it is what it is. I think we're going to be fine. I think the value we have these players at with these ceilings, pretty damn good. Okay, George Kittle off the board by the crazy team. I really want to just be watching this team at the 104, see what they decide to do. Waddle makes it all the way to pick 45. Dear God, you have to be so excited getting Jalen Waddle, getting Deontay Johnson here at the very end of the 4th round. This is what I was talking about. I do think that you are going to see some wide receiver value make it a little bit later. So if I'm going to be reaching on a wide receiver according to ADP in this draft's probably not the draft to reach on receivers. I think we are going to be able to get some fine values later. But Lamar goes to pick 48 by the Jonathan Taylor team. Don't hate that Lamar selection at all. Like we've said so many times before, Lamar literally has the NFL record for quarterback fantasy points scored on a per game basis back in 2019. I don't know if he's going to get back to 30 points per game again. Of course, that's probably unlikely, but still he has access to a ceiling that no other player in fantasy has access to. I don't even think Josh Allen could get to the true ceiling that Lamar Jackson has. Okay, so we have Gabriel Davis making it to pick 50 as well. Gabriel Davis has an ADP a lot closer to about 44. So it is a value on Gabriel Davis if you're looking at his ADP. Now, of course, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of Gabriel Davis. I think whenever he goes before David Montgomery in drafts, it's kind of crazy. Goes before Mahomes in drafts. Patrick Mahomes does indeed go at pick 51. Let's look at this team. I am so jealous of this team at the 103. I don't love the Javonte Williams selection. I mean, I think in Javonte Williams, you're getting a committee running back that we probably shouldn't be drafting there at the end of the 2nd round. But to look at this, Kupp and Waddle at receiver, Javonte at running back, Kyle Pitts at tight end, and Patrick Mahomes at QB. Dear God, I love that start from that team. I am so damn jealous. Let's see if we have some wide receiver value making it back to us. It looks like DK Metcalf is going off the board here. David Montgomery is someone that I really like. If we were to take David Montgomery, we are going to be done drafting running backs after 4 of these guys, and then we would just load up on wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver in the middle rounds. Looks like we may have the option to get Jerry Jeudy or Allen Robinson about 10 picks past their ADP. Usually, I never draft Jerry Jeudy or Allen Robinson because you do have to take him ahead of Lamar. You have to take him ahead of Mahomes, take him ahead of Kittle. Jeudy goes. So let's see what this team decides to do. It looks like they have been very much in line with ADP so far. They have Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, and Keenan Allen. Obviously, they need a wide receiver. Now, if they were to pass on Allen Robinson, I think we take A-Rob here, even though I don't have him ranked this high, guys. I'm doing 300, 400 real money drafts this year, so I have to make sure that we're diversifying our portfolio just slightly. So even though I don't have Allen Robinson ranked ahead of Brandon Cooks, ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster, we probably do have to go ahead and draft Allen Robinson just simply because he's never making it to pick 57 in these drafts. Now, I will say I may end up losing a lot of money on A-Rob this year. I lost a lot of money drafting him last season, and he is with a significantly better quarterback, and now he is cheaper in drafts. It's entirely possible I lose out on a decent amount of money avoiding Allen Robinson this season because Sean McVay decided to give Allen Robinson $30 million guaranteed. Like, it's hilarious. If you look at these 2 wide receivers going back-to-back in drafts with Allen Robinson and Juju Smith-Schuster, usually A-Rob does go about a round before, but still. You have Allen Robinson getting paid $30 million guaranteed compared to Juju Smith-Schuster getting paid $2.5 million guaranteed this season. Like, that's the difference in the contracts that those wide receivers demanded this offseason. they both went to very favorable situations. So it's not like Juju was like, oh no, I really am going to be willing to take a pay cut to go play in Kansas City with Mahomes instead of going to the Los Angeles Rams and playing with the team that just won the Super Bowl. So it's not like you can make that pay cut argument. But A-Rob, pick 57. We'll figure it out. And at this point, I do like a couple of the running backs in this range. Now I love Chris Godwin if Chris Godwin were to be able to get back early. So I think this is going to be our plan for this team. We'll see what ends up happening. I mean, we're 100% getting one of these guys. I think there is a pretty big tier drop off after Chris Godwin with all these players on the board. And of course, you have to worry about Godwin potentially missing the beginning of the season. Yes, that is a concern. I have to admit it. But at the same time, hell, we're drafting him as the wide receiver 30. If he wasn't going to miss the beginning of the season, Chris Godwin would be drafted as Evans is going as like the wide receiver 6. Chris Godwin would be drafted as a mid wide receiver 1. Godwin's averaged more targets per game over Evans over the past 3 years. So let's see what Spence decides to take this. Hopefully he just takes J.K. Dobbins and allows us to get Chris Godwin. We're going to have to go ahead. We're going to draft Chris Godwin here as our wide receiver 3. So we have a very balanced build between running backs and receivers so far. This team at running back has Dalvin, Mixon, and Alvin Kamara. Wide receiver, we have DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, and Chris Godwin. So I think this team does have the elite level ceiling that we look for in weeks 15, 16, and 17 if we have Kamara not getting suspended for the year, which I'll tell you right now, Kamara is not getting suspended for the season. At most, I'd imagine Kamara ends up getting 6 to 8 games. But still, if we were to have these players missing less time than they are currently expected to, all of a sudden we are in a pretty good spot. You have J.K. Dobbins making it all the way to pick 66. Dear God, that's why on Underdog Fantasy, you're just going to find some ridiculous running back values. You truly are. Like seeing David Montgomery go at pick 59, Josh Jacobs 62, J.K. Dobbins 66. This is why usually in round 1, I'm reaching on Stephon Diggs. Like if I look at my ownership percentages, you're going to see that across all the round 1 players, I am pretty light on running backs compared to these receivers, compared to even a tight end in Travis Kelce. So let me pull up my ownership percentages just so I can let you know. So Stephon Diggs, I have in 16% of drafts. Compared to Derrick Henry, I have in 5% of drafts. Najee Harris, I have in 7%. Dalvin Cook, I have in 4%. Who else is around 1? Eckler, I have in 3%. But look at this. Cooper Kupp, 14%. Jefferson, 10%. We have Chase a lot. We have Kelce close to 15%. So I am fading those running backs in round 1 just because looking at the running back value that you're getting at like pick 66 with Dobbins, pick 62 with Jacobs, 59 with David Montgomery. I want to be able to take advantage of that in the majority of drafts. Now, of course, we go a little bit different in this one because we get the opportunity to grab those running backs at a value in Mixon and Alvin Kamara. Dalvin Cook is right in line with where he usually goes. I mean, it's not like we got some great value on Dalvin, but let me know, would you have gone differently with this team if you were me? Would you have decided to take Travis Kelce over Dalvin Cook? I mean, if you wanted Najee Harris, I don't necessarily think that you're changing your draft strategy. That's just more of a player preference, and that's going to be up to you. But I think you could make the argument, Mason, let's go ahead. Let's take Kelce. Let's get the guy that should be the tight end 1 overall this upcoming season and did break fantasy football in 2020. But Damian Harris goes at 76. Okay, so we have the crazy team taking some more running backs here. Yeah, this crazy team, not really too wide receiver heavy. They have the combination of Stephon Diggs and Amari Cooper through the first 7 rounds. Burrow off the board at 77. We do need to take note of the Mahomes team also getting Kyler Murray. I really like the value that they got Kyler at, but maybe that's going to slide up quarterback value a little bit later on. But, oh dear God, if we get Dalton Schultz 16 picks behind ADP and then we're able to take Dak Prescott on the way back around, I'll be very excited about that. Of course, we don't have Lamb here, which usually you have Dak Prescott going to the CD Lamb owner, but I'd be very happy about getting Dalton Schultz. Yeah, Brady goes. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Dalton Schultz, and then we're going to really hope that we get Dak Prescott on the way back around. So scratch what I just said about potentially wanting to draft Travis Kelce in round 1. With Dalton Schultz, I haven't really been drafting him that often because he usually sneaks into round 5, at least at the very end of round 5, the beginning of round 6, like within 7, 8, 9, 10 picks of George Kittle. And I think that's crazy. But here having Schultz pick 81, Kittle pick 45. That's more of a reasonable gap, and also at the same time, we could expect that elite level production at the beginning of the season with Dalton Schultz, given the injury that you have to Michael Gallup and obviously Cedric Wilson and Amari Cooper outside of Dallas. And top 5 team pace of play, top 5 team in passer run ratio, exactly what we're looking for. But now we have some wide receivers going. Dak off the board. That sucks. Now I will go ahead. I'll take that quarterback that I love in Trey Lance if he is available to us at pick 88, because you're looking at Trey Lance as someone that I don't necessarily feel the need to stack, because that is a quarterback that the majority of his value will be derived in the rushing department. I do think Lance could be the quarterback 1 overall this year. I know it's crazy to say. Trust me, I get it. But I think you could have I don't want to say same rushing upside as the Lamar Jackson, but comparable rushing upside. And obviously it's in a Kyle Shanahan offense where you have George Kittle, you have Deebo Samuel. So let's see what they decide to give us. Michael Thomas wouldn't be too bad either, because if we go Michael Thomas, we'll have that double stack set up with Alvin Kamara, and we could potentially take Jameis Winston a little bit later on. But obviously we're hoping for Lance. Lance is our number 1 play. If we don't get Lance, we probably go Miles Sanders. Okay, this is the first decision point I think we've really had in this draft so far. Okay, let's sit here. Let's think about this just for a second. I really wanted Lance. Wanted Lance or Dak. We are getting Sanders about 10 picks past his ADP. Now, the issue is the running back value that we are going to have later on is too damn good for me to pass up on. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Michael Thomas here. We're getting him as a wide receiver 4 in this draft. I understand Michael Thomas definitely has his own injury concerns, and we are taking a very risky approach to this team here. But I do think that this team has an elite level ceiling if we do indeed get Michael Thomas somehow, some way, just back to 75% of what he once was. I mean, I tweeted this out a couple weeks back, but if you look at the last season that Michael Thomas was healthy in, it is very funny, because keep in mind, the last year Christian McCaffrey was fully healthy and you had a season of CMC, who now goes to pick 1 or pick 2, was the same year that we had the last season of Michael Thomas. In the last season we had a Michael Thomas, the same year as CMC, the same year as Barkley, where people are willing to draft those at elite level price points. You had 149 receptions and 1,700 receiving yards for Michael Thomas that season. I understand the injury is a real concern. Of course, there are risks associated with the profile. But if there weren't those risks, you would not be getting Michael Thomas at pick 88. You'd not be drafting Michael Thomas right next to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So I'm going to be willing to go ahead. I'm going to be willing to just draft him here, figure it out later. If he hits, he hits. If he doesn't, he doesn't. See Olave at 96, and I think we could go running back at the 105 and 112. I mean, I am going to really prefer the running backs in this range. Usually in this range, you're going to be looking at guys like Melvin Gordon. You're going to be looking at a Chase Edmonds, a Cordell Patterson. I mean, there are a lot of intriguing running backs. You have Kenneth Walker off the board. The crazy team decides to take Chase Claypool as their 3rd wide receiver. They reached on Damian Harris by a wide margin. I'd assume that's what a Damian Harris drafter looks like. They reach on Devin Singletary as well, which should allow running back value to be pushed down to us. But if Stafford falls, we do have Allen Robinson. So if Stafford were to fall 12 picks in his ADP on a team that we have Allen Robinson, we are going to go ahead. We are going to take Matthew Stafford to get that Allen Robinson stack. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but I do think it's going to be completely fine. If that doesn't happen, we are going to be going Chase Edmonds. If Edmonds is not there, sure, I'll go Robert Woods. I think this is the order we want these guys. But number 1, Stafford. If we can get Stafford on an Allen Robinson team, both of these players falling as far as they are, I think that would be very exciting. Now, this team on the clock has Tom Brady already, so I'm unsure if they would be interested in taking another receiver here. Obviously, they don't have any Los Angeles Rams players because Kupp went to the 103 team. Cordell Patterson off the board. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to get Matthew Stafford as our quarterback 1 here, about 12 picks behind his ADP. I love this draft room so far. And then we're going to queue up James Cook, Tyler Boyd. That's about it that I'm interested in. We're really going to hope that one of those 5 players make it back to us. I don't really care about Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr in this range. And at the same time, I don't really care about these tight ends. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Now we have Chase Edmonds going to pick 106. Edmonds was a running back that, of course, we really wanted. That's one of the reasons we took Michael Thomas at 88, so we could plan on getting Chase Edmonds at this turn here. But Well, I mean, I didn't expect that we were going to have Stafford making it back. Now, drop a land. These teams have favored wide receiver as of late. Yeah, so you see Tyler Boyd going. Tyler Boyd would have been someone I'm fine taking at the 112. I've talked about this, but I really do think that Tyler Boyd and Hunter Renfrow, from a range of outcomes standpoint, those are two players that look very comparable, in my opinion, yet you are going to get that discount on Boyd where he's going, a total of 24 picks behind Hunter Renfrow. That's a price point that I'm definitely going to prefer Boyd with over Renfrow. Let me see if I have enough Tyler Boyd, because I do prefer this Tyler Boyd price, but at the same time, I've been drafting a lot of running backs in this range. Like, I have a little over 10% Chase Edmonds. I like 15% Cordell Patterson in this range. I got Kenneth Walker in this range. I have a lot of James Cook here. So inherently, I'm not looking at receiver very often. Yeah, I only have 7% of Tyler Boyd, but I really do like Tyler Boyd's price point here. Ramondre Stevenson off the board. I'm not a big Ramondre Stevenson guy, so I'm fine seeing Ramondre off. If Robert Woods were to fall 10 picks past his ADP, and we kind of do need another wide receiver, we would have taken him. It doesn't happen. But hopefully one of these teams decides to grab Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr or even a Zach Ertz. Christian Watson's not going to be that appealing because we don't necessarily need to be adding rookies to a team that potentially may not have Chris Godwin or Alvin Kamara to start the year. Rodgers isn't that appealing because we're not going to have stacking options later on. Okay, good. We are going to get one of our guys making it back. We are going to get Melvin Gordon here. Melvin Gordon should be playing in that committee. Last year, he averaged more carries per game, more yards per carry, and more fantasy points per game compared to Javonte Williams when both running backs were healthy. And it wasn't too close either. So here, I'm not expecting Melvin Gordon to be the starting running back in Denver this upcoming season. Of course, I cannot expect that, but I do expect that Melvin Gordon is going to have a role in this offense. And if Melvin Gordon were to have a role in a best ball format, he could randomly spike into your starting lineup if he does find the end zone. And of course, what's most important, what's probably most exciting, is if there were to be an injury to Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon all of a sudden probably becomes a running back one. Like, say Javonte Williams pulls J.K. Dobbins, which I don't want it to happen, but if he were to tear his ACL before the season starts, where are you drafting Melvin Gordon in fantasy at that point? At the 2-3 turn, probably where Javonte Williams is going now. Maybe a little bit higher than that. I mean, people are very excited about this offense. Okay, so Jameson Williams, Jacoby Myers go, pick 115, 117. I kind of like seeing these running backs off the board at this point when we already have 4 of these guys. We're only going to be drafting one more running back. I mean, we have a very good running back core. We got some old RBs, yes. Usually running back's not an old man's game, but we have Kamara, Cook, Melvin Gordon, and Joe Mixon here. But we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. Rondale Moore, pick 120. That's usually where you see Rondale Moore go, but it's interesting that Rondale Moore goes there, whereas you really never have Kyler Murray falling to this range of the board, even though he does in this draft, which of course is a little bit different. And that team from the 103 that we've been jealous of this entire draft goes out and they get Zach Ertz to pair up with Kyler Murray. Look at this draft. You have Kyler and Mahomes at quarterback. You have Pitts and Ertz at tight end. A very unique build that does have a lot of upside. They're not sacrificing wide receiver production. They got Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle. Now, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of their Allen Lazard selection at pick 75, but I mean, if you're going to be looking at ADP here, obviously you can't take quarterback. Sky Moore, pick 94 to correlate with Patrick Mahomes. Kenneth Walker, 99. Zach Ertz to get that correlation with Kyler Murray. Gallup at a decent value. God, that's an exciting team. Christian Watson, if he were to fall, of course we're taking him, but I also would have regretted my decision to go ahead and to pass on Aaron Rodgers a little bit earlier, but now we don't have to regret that whatsoever. At this point, we are planning on getting Jameis Winston. Let's go ahead. Let's add Jarvis Landry here. Maybe you could make the argument, Mason, you should go ahead. You should take Alexander Madison, handcuff Dalvin Cook. I'm usually not a massive fan of handcuffing players, but in a best ball tournament, I think based on the dynamic of sneaking a team into the tournament with a given player, like if Dalvin Cook were to go down for 12 weeks, Alexander Madison's a running back one during that time period, Dalvin Cook comes back for the tournament, then all of a sudden, if you have Dalvin Cook at low ownership weeks 15, 16, and 17, you're one of the only teams there with Dalvin and he goes off. That is going to be very exciting. But Jalen Tolbert goes pick 132. Maybe we end up getting Alexander Mattison. If not, Rachaad White will be someone I'm very interested in here. That's why we decided to take Jarvis, because there were a couple different running backs. Dameon Pierce wasn't one of those guys I was dying to have. I would be more excited about Alexander Mattison or Rachaad White. I think this is going to be the order of our queue. I think these are the 4 guys that we're going to look at. Not interested in Tua here. We don't have Tyreek. We don't have Waddle. Cole Kmet off the board. Okay. At quarterback, let me remind everyone, we have Stafford. At running back, we have Dalvin, Mixon, Kamara, Melvin Gordon. Wide receiver, we have DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry. At tight end, we have Dalton Schultz. Are we really going to get Alexander Mattison here falling 13 picks? Yeah, getting Alexander Mattison falling 13 picks. It is somewhat concerning seeing all these teams take their quarterbacks early. Like, you get both Trevor Lawrence as well as Daniel Jones off the board here. I do think that's lowering our probability of getting Jameis Winston now. We really want Jameis Winston on this team. What we want to see at this point, once we go Alexander Mattison, is we want to have running backs off this board. Hopefully Rachaad White's the next one to go. Hopefully we get these dominoes falling one by one by one. We still need Winston making it back to us. Tua Tagovailoa goes to pick 137. Not a strong start for us to get Winston. Winston is now the best quarterback according to ADP, and we have a total of 14 picks before we're back up on the clock. Oh, dear God. Come on. Give us Winston. Give us Winston. Darrell Henderson goes off 138. That's going to be good for us, of course. KJ Osborne, 139. KJ Osborne, someone that we had no shot at making it back to 153, so it is what it is. The crazy team up on the clock. Let's see where they decide to go. They go Ryan Tannehill, reaching, 40 picks on Tannehill according to ADP. Now, that probably hurts us as well if teams begin to get worried about the supply and demand ratio of the quarterback position. So hopefully, just hopefully, people aren't reading into that too much. Rachaad White finally off the board, 142. Gesicki off the board, 143. I definitely am now a member of Mike Gesicki's fan club. If you're looking at this price point, if we are going to be comparing it to what we have with Irv Smith Jr. and where he goes now in drafts, I used to like Irv Smith Jr., but I think we've gone a little bit too far. If I pull up my 2022 fantasy football draft guide, which of course you have access to this 2022 fantasy football draft guide over there on flockfantasy.com, or if you go sign up to get in drafts with us on Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK and make a $10 deposit, they'll match that deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's essentially free for you, and you're getting 300 pages, almost 300 pages of high quality information with our draft guide. But here, Irv Smith Jr. over his 2-year career, which, yes, he's incredibly young. Like, Irv Smith Jr. is a couple months older than Pat Frymuth. It's hilarious. See, he was drafted at freaking 20 years old coming out of Alabama back in 2019. But during that 2-year period where he was very young, but still, he averaged 1.2 yards per route run. It's not a good mark. Now, of course, back then you had Tyler Conklin and Kyle Rudolph both on the roster. But I just think it's tough to put this kind of gap between those two players. Whereas, yeah, Irv Smith Jr. is going to be playing in a pass-happy offense. He still does have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Now, they're not exactly Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but they're pretty close. They're comparable. Okay, so these teams both have 2 quarterbacks, Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady and Tua Tagovailoa. So I do think we're going to get our guy Winston. I think we're getting Winston here at pick 153. And with Winston, we need him because we have a triple stack set up with Jameis Winston. Okay, so let's see this. Come on, give us Winston. Give us our guy. And then we are not going to have a chance at Robert Tonyan or Hunter Henry on the way back around, because if you look at these teams, all these teams only have 1 tight end. So yeah, let's take Jameis Winston as our quarterback 2 here. I still wouldn't mind grabbing Baker Mayfield at like the very end to pair up with DJ Moore, or I don't want to say it just yet. I don't want to jinx ourselves. But Tyler Algier off the board, 153. I didn't even notice that this team between us decided to draft 3 quarterbacks. They went Lance at 87, Lawrence 130, Daniel Jones at 135. I just could not understand this Lawrence or Daniel Jones thought process. Like, if you wanted that pairing of QBs, you could have waited for them. Especially if you already have Lance. It's not like you're panicking at the quarterback. You shouldn't be panicking at the quarterback position. So really don't understand why they're taking those guys there. But Winston 153, I'm completely fine with that price point, especially with how we're already pot committed to the New Orleans Saints offense. Like, if Winston is bad, this team's already toast. This team already has Kamara, Michael Thomas, and Jarvis. Like, the only way this team is any good at all is if the New Orleans Saints passing offense is, I don't want to say 2019 Tampa, but at least top 10. Now, let's see what this team decides to do. Of course, if they want to give us Hunter Henry, I'll be fine with it. They go Nico Collins, 150. I can't get with this new price point in Nico Collins. Yes, John Mechie should miss the beginning portion of the season, but what the hell are we doing here? Drafting Nico Collins, pick 157. What are we doing? I guess it's good for us because we're going to go ahead. We're going to be able to get Hunter Henry as our tight end 2 here. And when we take Hunter Henry as our tight end 2 at this pick, I think that we're potentially done at tight end. Now, if we get a crazy value falling to us a little bit later, sure, I'll take a third, but we have Dalton Schultz and Henry on this team. We got them at decent values as well. I'd say the same thing with the quarterback position with Stafford and Jameis Winston. I think this is a very balanced and a very good team. Let me go through and show y'all. Of course, it does hinge on how many games Alvin Kamara misses, but we are shooting for the highest upside possible. Highest upside possible. This is that best ball tournament format. But here, Dalvin, Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Melvin Gordon, and Alexander Madison at running back. A wide receiver, we have DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry. Quarterback, Matthew Stafford and Jameis Winston. Tight end, Dalton Schultz and Hunter Henry. I'm pretty excited about it. I don't even know what we want at this point. Probably still running backs to go off the board. We're probably still done at the running back position with the 5 guys that we have. We are going to have 4 more picks, and we can divvy these up between wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends. I would say we probably can't take another QB and another tight end. I think we almost have to just see where the value lies. I think we do need to still take 3 more wide receivers. But outside of those 3 more wide receivers that we're going to draft, I think we should have the flexibility to grab another QB or tight end depending on how the board falls. But the crazy drafter decides, I didn't even see this. They went Marquez Callaway, pick 148 as if it's 2021. Now, do y'all remember the Marquez Callaway preseason hype? Fun times, fun times. Well, Gus Edwards goes pick 167. Good thing for us. My favorite player in this range, easily Kenneth Gainwell. I love that Kenneth Gainwell price. I mean, if you're looking at the high value touches he has access to in Philadelphia, at least he had access to last year. And of course, he can have a very high ceiling if something were to occur to Miles Sanders this upcoming season behind the number 1 offensive line in the NFL. I really like that Kenneth Gainwell pick of 166. Like, I see Kenneth Gainwell as a player that has a significantly, and I repeat, significantly higher ceiling than what you're going to be looking at with Gus Edwards. But Zach Wilson, 169, probably good for us if we were to look for another QB. Like I said, I think it would be around 18 guy. I think it would be either Baker or, at the time of this recording, we don't have news on a Watson. So I think it would be Baker or Watson if either they're around 17, 18, and we like the value. But pick 170, Darrell Williams off the board. I'm fine with that price point of Darrell Williams as well because obviously James Conner has dealt with his fair share of injuries throughout his entire NFL career. And on top of it, we know that the Arizona Cardinals offense will put up a tremendous amount of points. I think that you should have a small weekly role for Darrell Williams regardless. Maybe he randomly spikes in to your starting lineup with a touchdown every now and again. And of course, you're drafting him for the upside he were to have if something were to occur to James Conner. But you know what I just realized? We probably made a mistake with our last pick of going Hunter Henry. We probably should have gone Tyler Higbee. Higbee was probably the selection. Now, if Higbee falls here, our decision's made for us. We're only drafting 2 quarterbacks because we're getting 3 tight ends. Honestly, if we get Everett or Higbee, my preference would be Higbee over Everett. But let's see what ends up happening. The team right before us has 2 tight ends as well. I mean, they have Erskine Jr. and Robert Tonyan. If I were them, I would personally grab one of these 2 guys. I think this is how our board should look. Sammy Watkins off. I wasn't really considering Watkins regardless. Look at all these tight ends as best players available here. Like the entire board at this point is tight end, and we get Higbee making it back to us as our third tight end on a team where we did decide to draft Matthew Stafford. Guys, y'all got to give me credit. This is a beautiful draft. A beautiful draft overall. Noah Fant, obviously not in play any longer. We are going to be looking at some of these wide receivers. I love both KJ Hamler and Julio Jones at this price point. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get our guy KJ Hamler. I know we do have a KJ Hamler jersey. I am excited to see if Hamler stays healthy this upcoming season, if he does work his way into a regular role in this offense. And of course, if we were to have an injury to Cortland Sutton, which occurred 2 years ago, if we were to have an injury to Jerry Jeudy, or even an injury to Tim Patrick, an injury to any one of those wide receivers, I do think you have KJ Hamler becoming close to an every down player and a very exciting upside shot overall. Now, what I don't get is, guys, I'm sorry to roast y'all. I'm sorry to go out here and talk out of my ass, but how are you going to take Sammy Watkins over Gerald Everett to then come back around and draft Hayden Hurst at 186? How are you not taking Gerald Everett at 175 and then instead of taking Hayden Hurst, just grabbing a receiver here, getting Julio Jones? Like those tight ends making it that far, honestly crazy. The fact that we had Hunter Henry at pick 160 and Tyler Higbee at 177. I think we could have top 3 tight end production almost every single week in a best ball format between Hunter Henry, Tyler Higbee, and Dalton Schultz as well. Okay, Jared Goff off the board. We do want to see these quarterbacks gone. Like I said, I think Baker or Watson would have been intriguing with this build before we had Tyler Higbee falling to us. Once we have Higbee falling, I think that we still need wide receiver help. I mean, this wide receiver core, it's not that strong. Yes, we are making that bet that somehow you do have Michael Thomas getting back to his usual strength, but we'll see. Let's queue up David Bell, Devin Duvernay. I wouldn't hate the idea of actually drafting Terrace Marshall here, even though I haven't drafted Terrace Marshall that often. Given the fact that we do have DJ Moore, maybe we make a bet that, Robbie Anderson goes down and all of a sudden the target share favors Terrace Marshall and DJ Moore compared to what regular projections would have. But it looks like a lot of these teams have enough wide receivers as is. Some of these running backs are great values with like Marlon Mack and J.D. McKissick. You have Mac Jones falling about 30 picks in his ADP. Austin Hooper off the board 198. Yeah, this team took Mo Alley Cox and Austin Hooper at tight end so they could. This team was horrible. What are you doing? Taking Zamir White 3 rounds ahead of his ADP, 3 rounds before you had to draft them, just so instead of getting freaking Gerald Everett, you're looking at Mo Alley Cox and Austin Hooper. Come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Use the ADP. Use the draft board to your favor. I would love David Bell. Hey, speaking of ADP, yes, Devin Duvernay has the higher ADP than David Bell. Yes, I'm drafting Devin Duvernay in a lot of these, but I do want to be going after some players that may be devalued, that the community maybe is wrong about. Maybe the overall fantasy football community is wrong about the likelihood of a full game suspension for Deshaun Watson. If Watson weren't to get suspended for an entire season, then all of a sudden, David Bell at 201 is very appealing. So we're going to grab David Bell here. And then beyond that, I do not exactly know what we're looking for. Like I said, maybe Terrace Marshall. I don't love Terrace Marshall, though. We have Odell Beckham Jr., James Washington. Don't really care for any of these guys. You know what? We could go Tutu Atwell. How much are y'all going to roast us if we decide to go Tutu Atwell? Another second-round wide receiver from last year's NFL draft. If we didn't get Higbee, I'd be more interested in going Tutu Atwell to build in the correlation with Matthew Stafford to get that potential stack. But whenever we have both Allen Robinson and Tyler Higbee, I don't think it's nearly as important to get the third guy. Okay. Watson's still available. I think Watson in the majority of these is a fine pick, but our wide receiver core is very thin. I think we're great at running back, good at quarterback, great at tight end. Well, wide receiver, we only have DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Thomas, Landry, Hamler, and Bell. We have to go with another receiver. We'll go ahead. We'll draft Devin Duvernay. We will draft someone that I went to college with, so that's exciting. But, of course, thank you guys for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like in this video, subscribe to the channel, and go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. That way you can draft with us. Y'all know we are doing these drafts every single day until the season starts. But thank you again. I appreciate you. and I hope you have a great day.